And coming back to that conversation with the Independent Electoral Commission, that's the IEC, today expected to launch a national voter registration campaign at tertiary institutions. And we are now joined by Mr. Mamabolo to talk to us more about what to expect for the upcoming elections in 2024. Mamabolo is the IEC's Chief Electoral Officer, and he joins us now. Mr. Mamabolo, good to see you and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much, and greetings to you and your viewers.
So we've just come from an election. I think this one's still very fresh in our minds, and now we're already gearing up for another election, preparations for that. So please speak to us about how far your preparations are as the IEC for the country to hold national and provincial elections in 2024.
Well, we are in the process of finalizing our review of last year's elections. We will then be submitting a report to Parliament indicating areas that present a challenge, areas of success, and perhaps even proposing some legislative amendments. Having done so, we will immediately commence with the planning for 2024. Because to plan an election, a general election, takes at least 24 months. Parallel to that, we are now launching this campaign in tertiary institutions, starting at Wits, but it's going to be a national rollout so that we engage young people in the electoral project of the country.
And this is, of course, a very conscious decision. Talk to us about the thinking behind it, Mr. Mamabolo, because one would imagine that young people would be interested. Why did you feel the need to go right to where they are? But in doing so, also being cognizant of the fact that you may still be missing out on a large chunk of young people.
Oh, certainly. The thinking is borne out by the data at our disposal. The reality of the matter is that young people, once registered, they in fact participate in high numbers. In last year's election, in November last year, close to 80% of young people who were registered actually participated, which means the challenge for the country, the challenge for our democracy is to ensure that they are registered and on the voters' roll. And then it's for political parties to enthuse them and motivate them, as it were, in terms of their policy programs to ensure that they vote. But once they are registered, they really participate in high numbers. So this campaign is intended to address that particular consideration. Get the young people on the roll as early as possible. And when the campaigns are launched by parties, let them compete in the political market of ideas for young persons' votes.
Now, Mr. Mamabolo, certainly in our own debriefs as the SABC, one of the things that came up was perhaps we could have done more with regard to voter registration in the lead up to the local government elections. And I'm sure that would have come up in your deliberations as well. So, for example, for those who still don't know, people who register to vote in the past local government election, do they have to go and register again to vote in the national election?
No, once you are enlisted on the roll, you remain on the roll until you decide to deregister yourself. So once registered, always registered. The only important element would be that come and check your details ahead of an election to ensure that you confirm the correct voting station, to ensure that your details are correct, and that your address has not subsequently changed. Those are the only requirements for you to vote, having registered during a previous election. You are not removed, you remain on the roll until you consciously come and ask for a deregistration.
And Ms. Mamabolo, the online registration provision, is that still available outside of the student population as well?
Yes, it is omnipresent. It's a facility that can be used at the leisure of every citizen's time. You use it as you wish, but we want the greater uptake for young people because in the normal course of their ordinary lives, young persons converse with mobile devices and so on. So that facility remains open for every citizen of the Republic.
And I know you're going to tertiary institutions, which of course makes sense given the age cohort of people who would enter these institutions. But is there some plan to perhaps take this to schools as well, high schools, because there would naturally be people at these facilities as well who are eligible to vote?
Certainly. We will be in the month of April be having a schools democracy week wherein we'll be providing electoral democracy education lessons and so on in partnership with the different provincial departments of education. We'll also be providing opportunities for registration when we are in schools. You did at the very beginning raise an important issue about the youth who are outside of the higher education system and outside of the formal schooling system. We will be engaging with a cross-section of political formations of young persons, as well as other NGOs and so on, to try to get into that youth that is, as it were, not organized. Because we can't just deal with those that are in the formal systems and forget about those that are outside of the formal systems. It is in fact those that we need to target more and ensure that they are brought into the democratic fold of the Republic.
And just a reminder again, Mr. Mamabolo, you headed out to Wits today. What do the students who wish to register, what do they need to have with them?
All you need to have is your identity document, a smart card ID, and then there'll be facilities where you can log on and effect your registration. So it's a very simple, easy to use system that will take you no less than 5 minutes, and you are on the voters' roll.
Mr. Mamabolo, we wish you well, and of course we'll be checking in, touching base with you as we prepare and go towards the 2024 elections. That would be for the national and provincial elections, of course. Mr. Mamabolo is the IEC's Chief Electoral Officer, and they will be targeting tertiary institutions, trying to get young people to register. And as you heard there, quite a good statistic that the young people who actually are registered actually do go out and participate in the elections. As Mr. Mamabolo said, they register, and then it's up to the political parties to enthuse the younger population enough to participate in the elections. So if you're at Wits University and you haven't yet registered, you're not on the voters' roll as yet, your opportunity is today. The IEC will be at your facility. All you need is your smart card ID or barcoded ID, and you'll be registered in just a few minutes. So that's where we're going to leave that.